Welcome to The Waters Between, a podcast about connection, community, and the power of giving in the Waccamaw region of South Carolina. I'm Mike Mancuso, the President and CEO of the Waccamaw Community Foundation, and excited to be your host as we navigate philanthropy in the waters between. The name Waccamaw comes from the Waccamaw Indian people, the original stewards of this land and water. The word is believed to mean both coming and going waters, and between the waters, a reflection of the rivers and the tides that shape not only our geography, but our way of life. At the Waccamaw Community Foundation, we believe philanthropy should flow just like these waters, connecting people and places, bridging needs and resources, and sustaining our communities for generations to come. This podcast flows from that mission. In each episode, we'll dive into the stories of local nonprofits, community leaders, and everyday people who are making a difference through giving, service, and collaboration. Whether you're a donor, a volunteer, or just someone who cares about the place we call home, we invite you to join us as we explore the waters between. Welcome to the Waters Between podcast. This is episode number 2, Legacy Giving. I'm Mike Mancuso, the President and CEO of the Waccamaw Community Foundation, and I'm here as your host today. Thank you for joining us, and I hope we can give you some really good information around legacy giving. Today, we are excited to have attorney Alan Jeffcoat with us, who's an expert in this type of process with his clients in establishing legacy. So, Alan, thanks for being here today.
Thanks.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice?
I've been practicing law here in Myrtle Beach for close to 50 years. Large part of my practice is wills, trust, probate, helping families decide what they want to do with their whole either giving or bequest to their family members or just answering questions. That seems to be a large part of my practice. But that's pretty much what I do. I help people start businesses. That's the large part of it.
All right. Well, and also you were part of the Waccamaw Community Foundation at almost the very beginning 25 years ago and are serving on our board today. So thank you for your service to the foundation.
Back in the day, when all that started, I had no real connection with the foundation. I learned a little bit about it. But as clients would come through the office and we would talk about charitable giving, when I would say, well, you got any charitable interests? And they'd say, well, yeah, sort of, but we really don't know. We just moved here or whatever. And I would simply say, you need to go talk to the community foundation that crystallize what you want to do. To do that part of it is easy for me as a lawyer. It's not that complicated, but that's their chance to figure out what it is they want to do and what kind of charity they want to benefit. And I did that a number of times, I think, and was referring people down to the foundation. And after a while, they said, "You want to come on the board?" That's kind of how my connection is matured over the years.
Well, we appreciate your service, and you have been invaluable to us as we've grown and really become a community tool for legacy giving. So thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. So the first thing I want to cover with Alan is the question of why legacy giving is so important, specifically to our region, but also to donors. Can you give us some insight on the thinking of the donors?
Well, a lot of the donors, potential donors that I talk to, obviously want something to carry on beyond their lifetimes. They know what their interests are. Sometimes it's more generalized, like I like humane treatment of animals, I like the environment, or I like this college, or I like this or that type of thing. And that's great, but it doesn't last very long if they haven't got their documents done right. That's the key to me to legacy giving, is it does last a long time, in perpetuity, as long as they want. But that's that's the key thing. And when the clients finally figure out that, yeah, this is what I want people to remember me by, or this is the thing I want to have happen, it's almost a relief when I see them again. They say, "We've got it all worked out, and let's just make it happen," and then they put it aside. And of course, you can do the legacy giving during your lifetime. It doesn't have to wait till death. A lot of people will set that up almost as a trial balloon. Let's see how it goes with the foundation, and so the key there is just flexibility.
Yep. Well, and I think that's what the foundation kind of brings to the table is we can really customize the giving plan for the donor. And as you mentioned, they can start now while they're still with us, create a donor advised fund, and do their annual giving through that fund. And then the fund becomes kind of the landing place for their legacy. You mentioned, a lot of the donors kind of come to the table going, I really don't understand how this works. I want to give to these 3 charities. And when you start wrapping that around the fact that legacy giving is forever or into perpetuity, that becomes a little more difficult. The fact that, okay, I'm giving to charity A today, but in 50 years, they may not be here. And how do we handle that? And the foundation is set up to work with donors to really get those intentions on a document that can drive that giving well into the future, well past us, has that instruction. So the example that you used was, animal charity. Initially, a donor will come to you and say, I want to give to this specific charity. And what we do is work with them to define the work that charity's doing, so that if something were to happen to that charity, the foundation would go out and find another nonprofit in that space doing that work. So it's really kind of a granular look at what the donor is wanting with their legacy. And it is a back and forth. And I think what I really like about the process, and you've touched on this many times, is we do all the planning at the community foundation, and then it's a matter of plugging the community foundation into their will or trust. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The funny side of it is, it's not that funny, but when you start talking about legal fees and costs of setup and all of that, the hard work is not mine. The hard work is the donor and you folks pinning down what they want to have happen, and they come back and say, all right, we're going to tinker with the will and send this much to the community foundation, or the entire estate, or 10% of my estate goes this way. Well, all that's been worked out, and it's just plugging something into usually an existing estate plan, but it doesn't have to be.
Well, and I've worked with a number of donors that have had their estate plan done for many years. That percentage going to charity that is directed to Waccamaw, and they'll come to us and update their documents at any time at no cost. They may change their mind about a particular nonprofit, or they want to add something else from another sector of nonprofits. So it gives them a lot of flexibility. So want to talk a little bit about the endowment piece of this to give that long-term sustainability. What do you normally talk about with your clients in that space? Do you go into any depth at all about endowment?
Not a lot, other than stressing that it's a permanent arrangement where your funds, your estate is protected for charitable purposes for forever. And it's endowed in the sense that it's permanent, but you can build in flexibility about, okay, what family members do you want to have after you're gone? Do you want to have family members involved in advising where they think your giving would be, if you've defined that enough in your agreement with the foundation? An endowment is more, you've set it up, you're cutting this baby loose, it's going to do this type of thing that you're happy with and excited about forever, regardless of what happens to you or to your family. It's out there. It's a ship sailing. It's going to do great work. That usually excites people.
Yeah, it does. And just to touch a little bit on how the endowment actually works, is a fund becomes endowed, and the goal there is to protect what we call the corpus. So that initial monies into the fund are protected forever. And the giving really happens from what that fund produces in income over its lifetime. And at the community foundation, what we do is we pull those funds together into a pool. They are professionally managed by an organization that is specific to endowments and foundations. It's a conservative approach, but it's designed to produce enough income to meet the needs of the giving and not invade that corpus. That's how you get that into perpetuity piece of an endowment. The average endowment spends about 4% of its value annually. So we do investing very conservatively to make sure we're making that 4% plus, so we're not invading that corpus over a long period of time. And the rule of 4% has been around for decades, and has been a real strong focus for most foundations to make sure we continue perpetuity. So,
well, the other aspect of that, and I didn't fully answer your question, was that when you set one of these programs up, it's not fund and forget. It's from day one. There's an income stream that comes off of this endowed, the initial contribution, and that income stream every year, whether you're alive or you're not, kicks off what you want to see happening in terms of charitable giving. So the charities benefit right away. It's pretty exciting for the average donor once they understand what's going on.
Yep. I think a lot of the donors that I get to sit down and go through this whole process with will look at you initially and go, well, I really don't know that I have a lot. And when they look at their full estate, the full value of their estate, and they carve out a percentage, and they realize that percentage will produce income that will pay this into perpetuity, you kind of see the light go on. And it's really amazing. And quite frankly, we've had a few estates recently come in, that were talked about 20 years ago. And just watching, the effects it's had on some really hard work in the community, in the nonprofit space, it's just amazing for sure. Wanted to talk about, some memorable stories of legacy, and the one that pops to mind is Alan and I had a client together. Actually, it was a client of Alan's that had designated Waccamaw in his will, and we worked together to get that estate closed after his passing. And again, Alan was a great partner during that process. But today, that full estate went into an endowment and is now a scholarship fund at Horry Georgetown Tech, producing, I think last year we had 5 scholarships come out of that fund last year. And that will happen every year into perpetuity. So a gift like that is affecting lives every year forever. And every time I kind of wrap my head around that, I get goosebumps.
The other thing about that particular case, and most of them like that, is that the donor, the one that sets this up, let's say it's a scholarship program like that, that's a fair amount of work to do to vet people that apply for a piece of this income that comes in. And that is not your problem, Mr. Donor. It's something the foundation takes on through applications and interviews in some cases, whatever the desire is, so that it's something that most people would not have the inclination to do. I don't want to be interviewing people for scholarships all the time. Maybe it'd be nice, but this puts it over in the foundation's hands, and it's I wouldn't call it pain-free, but it is actually quite exciting for the average one. You can I've been involved in one in my family that was outside of the foundation, where a relative of mine left a substantial share of their estate into this endowed fund with a nursing program, and there the person who's the entity that's interviewing applicants takes that burden. My relatives are long gone. They passed away some time ago. But every year I get to meet, I'm just a family representative of the fund. I get to meet usually 2 full scholarship winners for School of Nursing. And that part's exciting, even though I had nothing to do with creating the fund. I'm the next generation down. And that's, you can multiply that 1,000,000 times. We've had other ones that we both know about where it's students at a certain institution, this engineering school, I want scholarships for them. I want scholarships for young lawyers. You just design it yourself, and or you can mix and match.
Yep, for sure. Well, and I just look at the impact that we've had as a community foundation and being able to give donors those tools right here in Horry and Georgetown counties. It's just amazing. I mean, we've got a few scholarships that are full rides to engineering schools that have changed people's lives, folks that would not have had that opportunity had that fund not been established. So I really, it excites me every time we get to do that. And at the foundation, we actually hold a scholarship day where we bring all the recipients in of all our scholarships, and in a lot of cases, they get to meet the donors' families and interact. And I think that's special for the families as well, because a lot of them, I have a few of them that track the kids and stay in touch with them after that. So it really truly is about leaving a family legacy in the long run. So what advice would you give someone that's considering planned giving?
I would say don't put it off. At least start having the conversation with the foundation. I mean, you can talk to your lawyer or your professional saying, I would like to do this, but they're going to need to have the guidance that you and the foundation can bring to the table. But again, don't wait forever. Sometimes that conversation takes a matter of weeks or months while because you guys are good about asking questions about, well, what about this? What about that? Once that's done, then it's pretty clear sailing from that point. Yeah. But don't put off the conversation.
Yep.
At least start it.
Yep. And I'll tell this short story, but I had a donor early on in my career that had just started their planning, and they were at a very young age, and we had started to just really document her thoughts on what she wanted her legacy to be. And unfortunately, right after that conversation, she passed away unexpectedly. The beauty of what happened, though, was we had captured everything that she really wanted to accomplish, and her husband was able to come back in and go through that. And working directly with him, we built a legacy fund for her in her memorial that lives on forever now, doing some great work. It really is about changing lives down the road long term, and making sure that we're continuing to be good stewards for our community. And I also look at it this way: the donor that writes a $100 check every year to a nonprofit is vital to that nonprofit. And if something happens to them, that income stops. But you can use legacy gifting and legacy planning to make sure that your giving continues long after you're gone. I also want to say, I'm just kind of looking through notes here. In planned giving, it's just not assets or cash. The foundation has the ability to take a lot of different instruments in through that process. One of them is, and most folks don't know this or realize this, but we can actually take property. And have you seen that in some of the estates that you've put together?
Yes. Whether it's always followed through is another matter. It's the situation where I wish we had been able to talk about this before.
Yes.
But there's nothing magic about real estate versus something else. There's some things that the foundation needs to do, other than you would not want to do it with a contaminated filling station site.
No.
That gets everybody in trouble.
Yep.
Other than that, a lot of times you've got family farms, for example, or other real estate assets that if the donor, my client, wanted to sell them, the capital gains tax would just eat them alive. Whereas if it's part of an estate plan where the foundation's involved and it can come in and then later be resold by the charity, in this case by the foundation, there's not a tax. So number one, it's accomplished the client's desires for charitable giving. Number two, the beneficiary of that arrangement is not Uncle Sam, it's the charities. And that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. It is a tool that I want more people to know about. We could take property into, and we have a part of the foundation is a land trust where we can take that property in, have it evaluated, and we sell the property. Then the funds then go into the long-term giving fund. So we do all of that for you, and there are tax benefits for sure in doing that while you're alive. I've got a few estates that I know when things happen, the property will transfer directly to Waccamaw, and we will take care of it, so that even the estate, the person in charge of the estate doesn't have to worry about liquidating the property. So that's just one of the advantages. Any misconceptions that folks come into you with on legacy giving?
Well, the first one would be what you just talked about, which is I don't have enough to worry about, but then if you start talking about the example of the charity all of a sudden losing the income stream that you were going to provide for them every year, endowed giving is just the answer to that. That would be the major thing.
Yeah. Well, and that's why our board has really focused on sustainable philanthropy, ensuring that we are giving the tools to the donors in our region that will help us, pay forward into the future long past us. And so thank you, Alan, for spending some time with us today, helping folks understand better this process. And I appreciate all of you joining us today for the Waters Between podcast. We appreciate your time. Hope this has been helpful. And at the end of the podcast, there's some information on how to contact us. I'd love to sit down and answer any of your questions and help you plan your legacy. Thanks.